Welcome to another edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. Bubba, I can sense your energy right now. I can just feel it. You are fired up. This podcast today has Bill Bubba Bussey written all over it.
Rick, it is a high-tech podcast, I know, but we want you to be a part of it,
I'm
too.
all in. If y'all don't need me, I tell you what I'm here to do today. I'm here for the commercial. But no, I'm going to attempt to participate. It's a fascinating topic. And Bubba, you talk about can we even cover everything our guest is involved in? Are we going to focus on telescope?
It's going to take a little while to set up who our guest is. It's
Right.
Ron Wilson,
Yeah.
Or I should say General Ron Wilson,
Yep,
retired Air Force Brigadier General, flew the A-10 during his time in the Air Force, currently a 777 captain pilot, or captain with American Airlines. And if that's not enough, his other job is with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, and he's working on a cutting-edge telescope to put on the moon. How about that?
But so
That's all.
Yeah, and I thought,
And in his spare time.
yeah, General, I got to be honest. I was going to brag a little bit about me hosting a radio show, but I think I'll stand down. So, welcome to Rick and Bubba University.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this.
So, Ron, before we get into all about what you're doing with this advanced project,
Yep.
let's set up a little bit about who you are and what you've done. Brigadier General?
Right, Brigadier General.
That's
yeah.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah, took 37 years, but I finally made it.
Congratulations.
So, where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Wisconsin. I'm now living in Michigan, and then we were down here on Smith Lake. We do a little bed and breakfast kind of retreat on Smith Lake in the wintertime.
Whoa, wait a minute, Bubba. He's pulled off what I've been trying to do.
I know.
You're doing it the opposite reason. I must leave Alabama during the summer. I'm looking for a way out.
Yeah.
Because I've never liked being that hot. I've never adjusted to it. But this is all I know because my parents decided to birth me here. And we do the show from Alabama for those who don't know that. So I've told Bubba, he's heard me talk about this for years, I need to work out some kind of deal. I'm going to need a second job to have a place that when it starts getting burning hot here, I go to enjoy a mild summer. And then about the time that the winter gets too harsh there, I come back for late fall and winter here.
That's
and
perfect.
You're doing it.
I'm doing it. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
He's living the dream.
How's that working?
It works great.
You get a little bit of winter, then you get tired of it, you leave, right?
That's right. The summers in Michigan are absolutely beautiful. 70, high 70s. Low humidity. Yeah, it's nice.
Note to self.
You have to come see me.
Yeah.
Close the gap with Ron.
That's right.
Right.
So, Ron, tell us about the Air Force. You flew the A-10, the tank killer, which is
Yep.
an awesome airplane.
Yep. So I went to pilot training at Reese Air Force Base in Lubbock, Texas, which isn't there anymore. And then I was stationed at England Air Force Base in Louisiana, which isn't there anymore. There's a little trend going. Flew the A-10 there for about 3.5 years, and then I went off to Holloman Air Force Base and did the fighter lead-in program where I was flying the AT-38, and I was teaching guys how to do dog fighting, how to drop bombs and all that. And then got out of the active duty, got hired on by American Airlines, and I stayed with the military as I went to the Guard up at Battle Creek, Michigan at the 110th Fighter Wing in Michigan. Continued flying the A-10s up there.
So, when you have trained to fly the fighter jets and all this, is it boring flying the big planes when you just have to be real careful with everybody?
It's completely different. It's completely different. They don't like to roll upside down like we do in the A-10.
Yeah.
They frown on that,
Yeah, I've ridden with your airline. Please, just don't do that. Let's don't go upside down.
So, with all that going on, you have found time to work at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is in California, I guess Pasadena, in that area.
Yep.
And you're working on a project that may end up being actually launched to the moon.
That's correct. We're working on a project called the Lunar Crater Radio Telescope. And it was funny how I got to that point was when I was getting ready to retire, I decided to do my master's. So I did my master's, and the Air Force always wanted you to do it in management or something like that. Well, I said, I want to do it in something I'm interested in. So I did my master's in astronomy. And my thesis project involved JPL, this project that they were doing. And when I got done with that thesis and graduated, they said, "Hey, why don't you just stay on with us?" And I said, "You want just a dumb pilot to stay on with you? Because these guys are brilliant out there. I mean, they're some really smart people out at JPL." So we continued this project, and we're part of NASA's NIAC mission. It's NASA's Innovative Advanced Concepts Program. And we're currently wrapping up Phase 2, and we're hoping to get picked for Phase 3. And
so this is like a competition, though. People bring to the table. How many people have you competed against?
So for Phase 1, there was a couple hundred projects, and it could be from academia, it could be from universities, from private enterprise, from industry.
A bunch of hams in their garage.
Anything.
Something,
and you do this proposal, and for Phase 1, NASA will select 15 projects. And then they give you $500,000, and they give you 9 months, and you do a conceptual development. And then after that, you're competing now for Phase 2. Of the 15, they'll pick 5. And we made it to Phase 2, and then they give you 2 years and $2 million. Now you're kind of into developmental stuff and testing and that. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of Phase 2, they pick 1 for Phase 3 and another $2 million in 2 years. And then at the end of that, you hope to become a NASA program of record.
Which means you get to do it.
Would you like to?
Hopefully.
Would you like to pronounce for us your team leader?
Yeah, because we're not even going to try
Have you seen this?
Dr. B.
Yeah, just Dr. B.
Yeah, how about his first name?
Saptarshi.
All right,
I can do that. I can't do that.
Saptarshi's right. His last name has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 letters.
Yeah.
And none of them grouped together look like anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, so he's not from Smith Lake, right?
He is not from Smith Lake.
Okay.
He is not. He is from India.
Okay, yeah.
But he's a robotics engineer. He's what they call the PI, the project investigator, and he's a very smart individual.
I bet he is. I mean, people like that. I mean, I won't even annoy them with trying to carry on a conversation with me.
Yeah.
I mean, how their minds are just
it's amazing.
Incredible.
And when I go out to JPL and there's 6,000 of him out there, it's amazing that we've got people like that working on all kinds of things.
So what do you bring to the table, which is what you were basically asking? So I'm a pilot, and we're dealing with the robotics, we're dealing with telescope. What are you helping with?
So what I bring to the table, what they liked about me is my connections with the military, with the government, and they use me to research other things. When I did my master's, I researched a way to keep the telescope formed perfectly. It's called active surface. And they liked all the people we reach out and touch. I mean, when we did this telescope, the last 6 months we've been working on anchors, and we've talked to people in the Antarctic research, in Alaska, over in Europe that do ship-to-shore line emergency throwing. Something that you guys would be interested in is hunting. We broadhead arrows, how they open up. We looked at that design for our anchors, boat anchor people. I mean, we've covered the whole spectrum. I did some stuff on lasers. I did stuff on lunar dust, which is a problem, solar radiation. We do reach out things for high school kids, grade school kids. We do all kinds of stuff.
So this is going to be a telescope that they're going to put on the moon that will be robotic.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back and break that down. But Ron, I'm just curious to know, with all of your credentials, how many people at Smith Lake know that an Air Force general that works for JPL and flies 777s are living next door?
Well, probably not too many.
You just never know, do you?
You never know.
This is that feeling when if you start kicking around the campfire, and it gets over to the general, and he said, "Well, let me tell you what I'm working on. I have a feeling that there won't be much chiming in."
Well, one of the interesting things, so we do this retreat at Smith Lake, and we get people who quilt and sew and scrapbook, and some of these they're elderly ladies, and I start talking to them, and they go, "Oh yeah, I'm an engineer up in Huntsville." You'd be surprised how many people.
Because it's so close to Huntsville.
Yeah, they work at Marshall or somewhere up there. So I talk to them. We have a good conversation.
All right, well, we'll come back. We want to jump in when we come back, like you said, Bubba. Let's get into a little bit about, and we got other things to cover, but let's get into this telescope, because when I'm looking when I see the term robotically placed on the far side of the moon,
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I'm thinking to myself, I'd like to see us walk into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. Our guest
Spider-Man would be proud of that.
Yes, retired Air Force Brigadier General Ron Wilson is our guest when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues.
This is the Rick and Bubba Show. Watch more at blazetv.com/Rick and Bubba.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
So we're all looking for gifts right now, and some of you out there are thinking, what do I need to do? Can I just suggest that you go to Tommy John? Bubba and I have been talking about this great product, and you've got this cloud hanging over your head, and you're thinking about, I got to get these gifts. Knock out your list today, because Tommy John's is having the Wrap It Up sale. It's happening right now. Look, it's the perfect gift. Nothing brings someone more joy than the softness and the comfortable fit of Tommy John. Now,
You want me to model mine?
yeah, Bubba, please don't. Please don't do that. But I mean, you could, but somehow.
Speaking of the backside of the moon.
I'm telling you, and the dark side of the moon, and suddenly a new rating on our podcast. But the reason why we love what's going on at Tommy John right now, first of all, they've got a sale going on, so you're going to do pretty good right there, and you're giving the gift of comfort, and everybody on the list, including you, you're going to love, and this is the Tommy John underwear, but also don't forget the loungewear and the pajamas. With over 18 million pairs sold, Tommy John has become a holiday tradition. 97% of women and men love getting the gift of Tommy John. So this time, don't forget the ladies either. They've got the loungewear, and they do have stuff for the ladies. And Tommy John does not have customers. We can speak to that. They have fanatics. So softness season is here. Give the gift of Tommy John underwear, loungewear, or pajamas by simply going to TommyJohn.com/Rick Bubba. That's TommyJohn.com/Rick Bubba, and get 30% off everything at TommyJohn.com/Rick Bubba. And if it's not the best pair of underwear that you've ever worn, then it will be free. That's 30% off right now, TommyJohn.com/Rick Bubba. All right, so we're talking to retired General today, Ron Wilson. He has flown in the Air Force. He specialized in the A-10 and now is currently a captain with American Airlines flying the 777. But he is on a team, Bubba, that's working on a telescope that it sounds like we're going to try to get to the moon.
Yeah, well, Ron is part of the Innovative Advanced Concepts program at NASA, and this is a competition where they look for
That's cool.
new and exciting projects. And I love this, Rick. This is kind of putting the free enterprise capitalistic system to play and trying to come up with the best projects that'll actually work and get the desired results. And Ron, you guys are going to put a lunar crater radio telescope on the backside of the moon.
That's correct.
But you have to do it robotically.
It's going to be all done robotically. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that, because we all have we're familiar with the Hubble.
Yep.
We're familiar with James Webb. We've heard a lot about that lately, and how the advantages to being in space out of our atmosphere has really led to a lot of advancements. Some of the James Webb pictures are just, I mean, breathtaking. I mean, it's mind-boggling to look at it. So tell us about on the backside of the moon. I'm taking that part of that is to shield it from the Earth.
That's true. So really two things to do the science on the backside of the moon, the far side of the moon. One is we don't have an ionosphere on the moon like we have on the Earth. Now, the ionosphere blocks a certain segment of the radio signals.
Right.
So we've never been able to look in that area ever, because being on the Earth, you can't see it. And then the Earth is very noisy with cell phones, microwaves, radio shows, very noisy place.
Power lines,
Everything. Engines. So the far side of the moon also blocks it from what they call RFI, radio frequency interference.
Mm-hmm.
So very quiet, pristine. It's probably the only pristine place in the solar system that you can hear things. And these radio waves are really big. They're from anywhere from 10 meters to 100 meters big. So we're trying to capture big radio waves.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what frequencies you're going to be looking at. So
4.7 megahertz to 47. And that's the area that we can't see here on Earth. So, and the radio waves equate to somewhere around 10 meters to 100 meters big.
Right.
And that's why the telescope is 350 meters big. We actually started out in phase 1. We were 1 kilometer in size, but we had to look at budget and we had to look at the science. And without giving up a lot of the science, we're able to shrink it to 350 meters and still keep 99% of the science that we're trying to do.
So we'll get to the physical way that you're going to do this, but talk a little more about what you're going to actually hear or hope to hear with this that we haven't heard. Now you said there's a band of frequencies, and a lot of that is what we know. A lot of it gets reflected by the ionosphere, especially at night, like the AM radio band slightly below what you're talking about, but some of those characteristics going up. And we just never been able to listen in deep space because if that's the frequencies we made noises on, it's also the possibility that maybe other civilizations have made noise on.
That's true. So with the frequencies, what we're looking at, we're trying, and there's a whole spectrum, electromagnetic spectrum. So we're looking in the radio wave spectrum, and you have infrared, and then you have visual, microwaves. So we're looking at the far left, the really big stuff. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to look back to just after the Big Bang. Now, right after, and that's 13.8 billion years ago, right after the Big Bang, the universe was opaque. So we're trying to look through that back to something they call the cosmic dark ages. They have the cosmic dawn, which is where James Webb is looking at, and James Webb is an infrared telescope. So we're looking at bigger radio waves than James Webb. So we're looking at the first stars, the first galaxy formation is what we've never been able to see before. And we're looking way far back at radio waves. They're very, even like the sun and Jupiter make up noise that block this, the galactic background. Right. We have to pick a certain place on the far side of the moon where it tracks, and we try to track not through the center of the Milky Way because it's too noisy.
Right.
So that's kind of what
shoot
we're trying
outside
to do.
the spiral.
Yeah.
Looking at the edge of it. So you can, it's from our view, it's a streak, a band, so you go below or higher, then you got less noise even made in the...
Pretty much. We do go through it, but we go through a less noisy area of it. And we can only do this at night because the sun's too noisy. So the lunar day and night is 14 days long for day and 14 days long for night. So that's another issue that we have to look at. We can only operate during the nighttime.
And that is because the moon basically does a rotation every time the Earth does. So it doesn't look like it's moving at all to us.
It rotates around the Earth, but the moon is tidally locked.
Right.
So the same face faces us, and the far side of the moon never faces us, and it rotates around the universe. Yep.
So it gets 14 days. I was going to ask you 14 days of light and 14 of night.
That's true.
Wow.
So you got to make hay during the 14 at night.
Yes. And one of our problems is the great
scientific term
change.
I use, making hay.
Making hay. Yeah, right. That works.
Yeah.
And the temperature change, I know Apollo dealt with that because there's no atmosphere.
Right.
To equalize it. You got real hot if you're on the sun and real cold if you're not, even on the same piece of metal on one side and the other.
So we're talking 100 and 120 degrees Celsius during the day, positive, down to about a minus 170 Celsius at night.
That's a huge change. That's hard to engineer hardware for.
It is, and that's some of our challenges.
So when you say this telescope, what it's going to be able to do, so you're saying this is going back even further. You're using the term to see where stars being born.
Yes.
So you're trying to get as far back to this is where this started.
Yes.
Is this what you're trying to say?
Pretty close. We're a couple 100 million years after the Big Bang, which is really a short period. So we're right after the Big Bang. Like I said, the universe was kind of opaque, and the hydrogen was forming, and then it became transparent, and we're right in that area, what they call the dark ages.
Because it hadn't spread out yet.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. If all of that theory is actually correct.
Right.
Which
it
is a theory.
You're right.
It is.
Understood. And that's why it's important to do these kind of things, to go, okay, well, this has got a problem, or this looks like we're right on target about what happens. And I know there's been much debate about that. And the more we can see, then the more we can maybe learn and adjust where we're maybe a little off, and then confirm where we've been right.
And James Webb's been helping a lot with that, because that James Webb can see almost back, that far.
So for someone like me, that totally novice, are we going further back than James Webb can go?
Yes. We're
That's
going
what
back to the dark ages.
Right.
So just a little bit.
So we had, what was the big one before James Webb? What was
Hubble.
Hubble. So Hubble, then James Webb went further, and this will be the next.
Yep.
Go back.
Hubble was optical. James Webb is infrared, and we're radio wave.
Okay.
So,
And hey, did you know Bubba's a ham?
oh yeah.
Are you thinking about him maybe bringing some of his guys in on this?
I was thinking of yeah.
I mean,
I thought he might want to come to that when we launch.
Yeah. Some of the guys probably in on it are hams. So.
probably
are.
so. I bet.
We got a team right now of about 21 people. We got some guys from Houston, the Space Center down there. We got me, most of the guys from JPL, but we have the director, former director of the Arecibo telescope, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, and it structurally failed 2 years ago. That's why this telescope has really gained some traction, is because the biggest telescope the United States has now is 100 meters in West Virginia, and the Chinese have a 500-meter radio telescope. So when we reduced from a kilometer to 350, I said, why don't we do it 505?
Just a little bit
a
bigger.
little competition.
And the one that failed, it was in space. It didn't open up properly, right?
Well, Arecibo was the one down in Puerto Rico. That structurally failed.
Yeah,
Yep,
right.
yep.
Yeah, we saw it cave in on it.
Yep.
So, and it was in the James Bond movies and been in
Yes.
a lot of movies.
It was James Bond and the movie Contact, if you've ever
Right.
seen that movie. It was
What
big
was
in
the
there.
one in space that didn't open up properly?
There was, I think it was Lucy, and they actually fixed that.
Did they
the
get it?
rollers on it?
Right,
to
got
get
stuck.
Yep.
Yep.
I think they actually fixed it or got 95% fixed.
Even in spacecraft and telescopes, sometimes you need a little WD-40.
Yeah.
well, yeah. Is it amazing sometimes
James-
where things that are so simple get used in these really high-tech things
Oh, yeah.
to repair them?
James Webb had so many movements on getting that telescope unfolded. It was amazing. They pulled it all off.
Well, yeah. I mean, what you guys and people before you have done is fascinating. We come back. I want to talk about if you're going back to just before or just after the Big Bang. That'd be more accurate. It's not before; it's after it. Is I want
You
to
see before it, you have
Yeah,
seen
you
something.
really
you got
says-
something there.
Yeah. You may get a big hello, but just after it, if that theory holds up, what I want to ask you is, when this telescope is operational, what we should be looking for that would say, okay, this is affirming, and then what if you got other information, you'd be like, well, maybe there's an issue with how we think this took place. I'd like to ask you what we would actually be looking for.
Sure.
So we'll talk about that when our conversation continues on this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. All right, so let's talk a little bit about free iPhones. Usually, when you hear that's too good to be true. Just like freedom itself, nothing is really free. Well, mobile phone companies not only lock you into long-term contracts, but they also build the price of the phone into your bill with hidden fees. You may think you paid this price for it, and then you start looking at your bill going, what's all this? And they're, oh, well, that was part of your phone. Now, with Patriot Mobile, they can show you how to get that same iPhone interest-free without the games and with no contract. I want to emphasize that. No contract. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They offer nationwide coverage on the best 4G and 5G networks because they use the same towers as the major carriers. So you get the same great service, but you're supporting a company that might be more on the same page with you when it comes to a worldview, when it comes to your politics, your God-given rights, and your freedoms. Patriot Mobile also offers a performance guarantee. So you're not happy with the coverage? You know what, Bubba? You can switch to any of the three major carriers. They provide that for you for free. So go to patriotmobile.com and then go /Rick Bubba. Put those two words together. No and here. Or you can call their 100% U.S.-based customer service team. We've been talking about that, haven't we?
Yes. Thank goodness.
Yeah. You can call them at 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation today with the offer code. Put our names together, Rick Bubba. So if you are kind of tired of going, why is my money going to some of these woke companies that the things they promote and the things that they believe and some of the things that they don't love about our country, patriotmobile.com /Rick Bubba or call them at 972-PATRIOT. So Ron Wilson is our guest. He's a retired Air Force Brigadier General. He's flown the A-10 with the Air Force. He's currently captain with American Airlines. And Bubba, he's also on a team that's working on getting a robotically operated telescope on the dark side of the moon to see things that we've never seen before.
Yeah, we've talked about kind of the theory on it. Talk about how you're going to get it there. How's this thing, and I know you've got some graphics on how this thing is actually going to spread out, because this is a major engineering feat.
It is. So the telescope is actually a mesh telescope. Because radio waves are so big, you don't need a solid dish to catch them. And we're going to take it up there as a lander. The lander will land, and if you see the graphics there, the lander will land in the center of a crater, and then it will project out lines, 12 lines and 4 lines, and we'll get that to the edge of the crater, and then that'll anchor in by pulling back on those lines, and then we will deploy the reflector, which is what catches the radio waves, on 4 lines, and then the antenna telescope on the 12 lines. And you see that there. You can see those are the lines. The anchor is really the big thing that we really had to work on, was the anchor. That took.
So you feel like you got a good design to stick it in the moon?
And you know what? Start out, if you're familiar with the fluke anchor of a boat anchor, the one that has kind of like this.
Yes.
That's where it really started. So it's designed based on a fluke anchor.
So the more it pulls, the bigger it dig.
And you know, there's a lot of unknowns. That's why the anchor was kind of a single point failure. We have to get the anchor right.
I just saw a satellite go by.
That's a beacon antenna, beacon satellite.
Right.
So when we calibrate the telescopes, we have to have like a CubeSat fly over after that, and that'll calibrate that telescope before.
A CubeSat's a little bitty satellite, right?
Small satellite.
Well, everybody knows that.
About a shoebox or a little bigger.
Elementary, my friend. So let's ask this question. So part of this is we want to take a look at the Big Bang Theory. We want to go just after it happened, and we want to see the birth of stars and this. So if the Big Bang Theory is going to hold up, so the stuff that's coming back, what are some things we'd be looking for that we go, well, there it is. There's the evidence of this Big Bang. What should we see?
So what we'd like to see is the first stars and galaxies formed, and that'll tell us how we got here. Mm-hmm. And it'll tell us a lot more about where we are, how we got here, how things work, and where we're headed in the future. So it covers a whole lot, and again, it's that area that nobody's ever seen. And we'd be the first to do it. And we're not. This concept's been around for a long time, since really the '60s, of putting a radio telescope on the far side of the moon. There's other programs. There's a program called the Far Side, where they put something on the moon and it rolls out just metal over the moon and kind of captures radio waves too. So there's a few programs like this, but we think ours is unique, and we've worked a lot on it, and we have a really good concept.
Ron, let me ask you this. We'll just talk the bigger picture of it. We know from our observations, correct me if I'm wrong, the universe is expanding, and it appears to be speeding up as it goes, which goes against our known physics. From an explosion, the particles would move closest to the point, and then start to die off as they lose energy as they go out. What's our best thought on what's going on there? I know we've come up with dark energy and dark matter, but to me, we had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and we were talking about it, and I said, the dark energy thing kind of sounds like how I used to balance my wife's checkbook. I just draw a line and give up, Right. I mean, it just sounds like an easy way out to say there's something out there pulling it.
We got here. That's dark energy.
Yeah.
What could really be happening here? What do we know?
I mean, it is very complex. It's really hard to wrap your mind around it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the universe is expanding, and supposedly it's expanding faster than the speed of light, which nothing can move faster than the speed of light.
Well, or can it?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Don't open that can of worms. Ron, right now, be very cautious.
Somebody told me, or one of the things we study was, it's like a loaf of bread with a bunch of raisins in it. And as the loaf of bread rises and expands, it's kind of how the universe expands. And it expands, and everything from it, it expands. Now, if you're looking back at the dark ages, you're looking at what they call redshift. So something moving away from you is going to be redshifted, and something moving towards you will be blue
Doppler
shifted.
effect.
Right.
Yeah. James Spann taught us that watching tornadoes.
Yes, he did.
Hey, there you go. And so things back in this time are redshifted, extreme redshifted, and that's how you can tell how far away it is and how long ago it was. So that's what we're kind of looking at. There's something called the 21 centimeter line. That's kind of where the redshift and the hydrogen all lie, and that's the area, that's the sweet spot.
So back to your loaf of bread, are you saying you think it's being pushed out as opposed to pulled out?
I think it goes back to your dark energy and dark matter.
Right.
That can't be explained, but it is expanding, and
something to do in it.
It is, and there's a bunch of theories about what it's going to do. It may, and the sad one is, it may expand forever, and pretty soon the universe will be a dark place because you'll be so far you won't be able to see anything.
Right.
Other ones are as it expands and it contracts, expands and contracts, and you go through several big bangs. So there's several theories out there, and some of the science that we're doing maybe will help explain some of that.
Yeah, that was kind of my point. Maybe since some of this, we've never been able to see this, so everybody's like you're talking about going, okay, it's expanding. Well, it looks like it expanded, but it's really not. Dark energy. Maybe this telescope and the work you guys are doing, and I hope y'all get picked for phase 3 because nobody else wants to talk to us. You do, and so apparently we can get to you. So it would be cool to have that.
Or Ron got to us. Actually.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe this can help to say, oh no. Once what are we going to call this? What's the official name of it? Does it have a name?
Lunar Crater Radio Telescope, LCRT.
Say that. Slow down. Say it again.
Lunar Crater Radio Telescope, or better known as LCRT.
I think we need to
calling it-
name it after somebody like Hubble, and all, so it's easier for us to say.
Don't name it after this guy that's leading the team.
No.
All right. So,
Oh yeah,
So what are the letters again? The
LCRT.
LCRT. I can do that. All right.
Yeah,
the LCRT. People can say, well, with the LCRT, we saw this,
Yeah.
this, and this. So
Right.
this is ruled out. This we think is still alive.
Yep.
That's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
That's
I wish they
science.
call it
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
the Wilson telescope. That'd be easier to remember.
I'd go with that.
So, Ron, you mentioned a minute ago that it looks like the universe is expanding quicker than the speed of light.
Yeah.
Which I've told Rick all along. And
There he goes.
Listen, I'm a shade tree mechanic on this, but I said I think it's arrogant of us to say that yes, the speed of light is 186,000 miles a second, round figures
Right.
in a vacuum now. But do we know that it's always been that way? I think it's kind of arrogant of us to think that it's always been that speed just because it's that speed now.
Yeah, and that's why
And that solves some of the math.
it does, and that's why all these things are theories, and that's why we do more science. That's why
Right.
we launched James Webb. That's why we're doing the LCRT. That's why we have Hubble, so we can kind of figure this stuff out. Because the more we know our place in the universe, the more we know what the future. We can predict the future better, and it's better for mankind.
Ron, with everything expanding, have we ever been able to run this in reverse to kind of see where we think it all started at as far as a point in the universe?
Well, that's kind of why we're doing this. If you look back to the Big Bang, you're actually looking back in time.
Right.
You're not looking distance. You're really looking back in time. So we're looking back almost 13.8 billion years. And what you're seeing there didn't happen yesterday. It happened, 13.8 billion years ago. So that's kind of how they do it. That's all we have. That's all we can see from this little blue dot that we're on.
It's kind of magic that the distances are so great that we can use them not as distances but as measurements of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was closer, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, the distances are what boggle my mind. I mean, that's just so hard to wrap your head around. If you look at in Washington, D.C., at the Smithsonian, they got a grapefruit that represents the sun, and then they got a little grape that represents the earth, and it's like 400 meters apart.
Right.
Well, if you were to get the next closest star, which is Alpha Centauri, 4 light years away, it would be in San Francisco.
Yeah,
That's how close. I mean, it just boggles your mind how far things are, and that's our neighbor. Can you imagine,
I
Big
know.
Bang, or I mean, it's just amazing.
Ron, back to the telescope, the LCRT. Is it? Could it be in danger to meteors? Because we know the moon has. We actually captured a meteor hitting the moon not too long ago, and
Yeah, micrometeorites.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know James Webb's already had had a hit right after it opened up.
And we actually there's a study, and we know how many micrometeorites hit the moon per square meter, and we've done all the math on it, and we can take a few hits.
And it being wire or mesh,
it's mesh.
You got a lot of air in there too,
we
there's
do.
going to be a lot of misses.
We do. But so we will have enough. We're supposed to go for a year, but if you've seen a lot of the programs, they go for a lot longer than a year, like the rovers on Mars. They go long. So we're hoping maybe 5 years, at least. And we're going back to the moon with Artemis and everything. So maybe there's some maintenance and stuff that can be done when we have astronauts on the moon and stuff. But micrometeorites are a problem. Lunar dust is a problem. Solar radiation. Heating, cooling. There's a lot of things that we all had to solve. And
aliens, the Chinese.
The anchors were the big one. And if you look at the diagrams, we designed that anchor. That was like a boat fluke anchor. And we've done all kinds of research and talked to people all over the world on trying to figure this anchor out. Well,
and we'll talk about that too when we come back in our last session. A couple of things we still want to cover when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues. All right, Bubba, we like manscaped.com. There it is. We'll say it. And a lot of you are looking for stocking stuffers. You're looking for things to get the men on your Christmas list. Maybe even, we're having the Rick and Bubba Christmas party coming up. You need, for some people call it white elephant, some people call it dirty Santa, some people call it, Yankee swap, whatever it is.
Are we gonna scream Yankee swap?
Yankee swap. But anyway, if you're needing, one of those type gifts, manscaped.com is good too. Speaking of that,
that gave me a great idea.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah. So anyway, these products we love them because they're designed for men. And so if you're looking, swap.
The visual got me.
All right, let's look at some new items. All right, here's a good one. Let's talk about at manscaped.com and everything there. Like I say, our wives are in love with the way our hair's looking with their shampoos, and they've got body washes, and they've got all kinds of, shears. The Shears 2.0, that's the full kit for, nail care with your toenails, your fingernails, scissors, clippers, tweezers. There's, also it's there for traveling. We got travel cases. They've got a new cologne. And you know what this cologne smells like? It smells like I mean business. I mean, it's like I've been outside. I come in. It's got kind of a woodsy feel to it. Ladies, you're going to love this. So it's great to get for your man. And of course, also we've got a platinum package 4.0. What it is, it's a lot of little presents that are perfect for stocking
stuffers. Just a hint of Smith Lake to it,
just got a little bit there. You walk in, you say, you must be staying at Smith Lake. So go to manscaped.com, and we're going to save you 20%, or we're going to get you free shipping if you use the code BUBBA20. That's Bubba20 at manscaped.com. We just helped some of y'all solve your Christmas shopping problem right now. Go to manscaped.com, code Bubba20, 20% off and free shipping.
This is the Rick and Bubba Show. Watch more at blazetv.com/Rick and Bubba.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
All right, so we're wrapping up.
I'm mad at you because you got me out of my focus.
I'm so sorry. I should have never gone down the road of Yankee swap.
Yeah.
So we're talking to Ron Wilson, retired Air Force Brigadier General. He is working on the LCRT. This is a 350-meter mesh telescope that they plan on placing it in a crater on the far side of the moon to get it out of all the noise. Okay. And we're going to have to do that robotically. There's teams working on this. His team has been selected to be part of Phase 2. He's done Phase 1, Phase 2. Hope to be selected for Phase 3 for you and for mankind and selfishly for the show. So
I agree.
Yeah, and we've been discussing. This is going to take us to see things we've never been able to see before, and we just keep. This is the next step. With telescopes on us looking deeper and deeper into space. So this has really nothing to do with the telescope, but since I have you here, I honestly...
Get ready, Ron, for
anything.
It boggles my mind, and it frustrates me, and I don't know what to do about it. And I know why it's happening. I finally figured it out when I watched the documentary Social Dilemma. Why are people in the time we're living in right now back to saying the earth is flat?
Oh, Rick, you didn't
I know,
bring that up today.
But I mean, they hear a couple of yahoos.
Yeah, I
You've
know.
got some credibility. I don't. But somebody like Ron, could you help with some of how in the world
I know.
has this come back? I know how, because of social media, and you can get in these little fake worlds, and they keep feeding you all this stuff, and you can't believe that anybody thinks the earth is round by the time you walk out of that hole they pulled you into, and they don't care about you. They're just trying to sell you products because they think you like hearing about this, so they'll just keep giving it to you. But what I want to know is, of all the research and all the science that we have developed, we see it.
Yeah.
We can see the earth. We can see the moon. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to see it again.
Yeah.
So how is this? Can you? Is there anything you can
Artemis
say?
is out there right now taking pictures of the Earth, which is round. You know,
right.
Real good point. During my master's, one of my assignments, I did one of the classes was on the moon, and one of our assignments was to go find people, talk to your people around your office on who thinks we didn't land on the moon. And I go, that's crazy. Everybody knows we landed on the moon.
Boy.
Well, in the Air Force headquarters, I walked around, and some of the smartest people didn't believe we landed on the moon. And I'm
sorry.
completely taken back by that. I said, there's pictures, you can look. I mean, if that was fake, then 400,000 people who worked on Apollo would have had all lie for 50 years. So it just befuddles me how this conspiracy, flat Earth and not landing on the moon, just I can't explain it.
It's almost like I think what frustrates me, and probably you two more than me, because I'm thankful for people like y'all that this is your passion and you're learning things that I need to know. I'm just not willing to put the time in, and don't have the passion for it. But I love the benefits of it, and I like hearing what all y'all found out. Then you can tell me. But what bothers me is it feels like you've been. You have you ever been you're on a project now, and you're way down the road, and somebody keeps trying to pull you back, and you're like, I'm not going back to that.
Yeah,
it's like this is a complete waste of our time. We're past flat.
Yeah,
we've moved on.
And I find somebody like that, and I almost want to shake them and try to prove it to them, but you can't. Most of the people you can't prove it to them. It's like you just got to leave them and move on.
Because they believe all the. Because once I show you evidence, you go, that's fake.
Yeah.
Well, then what do I do now?
Yeah.
So
Rick,
that's going to be your defense anytime I bring something up.
We have a space station in orbit around a ball right now, 240 miles up. We have pictures of that.
You can go outside and see it. When it flies
when the
over.
sun's going down at the right time, right angle, you can see it.
Yep.
We don't have anybody with a picture of the ice wall or the snow globe.
Yeah.
So when you can bring some of that to the table, I mean, other than that, you're just you're having fun.
People say, well, the flag on the moon was stiff. There's no wind on the moon. I go, there's no wind on the moon, but they put a wire in the top.
in
It's
it.
a simple
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah. And then the other one is, well, there's no stars. I go, it's daytime on the moon, and there's no atmosphere, so it's not blue like here.
Right.
But during the daytime, you can't see stars.
No.
And that's the same on the moon. During the daytime, you can't see stars. It's black, but you can't see stars.
And the pictures are laid across each other
Yeah.
because of the crosses. But they're contrast issues. If you
I know.
if you correct them, you can see anyway. But that's I don't know. It's just it should be befuddling to us, but given the state of our country now, not completely.
Yeah.
Can you just say on the podcast the Earth is round?
The Earth is round.
Okay.
It's a ball.
Yeah,
you better
it's a
be
ball.
clear.
Yeah,
it's a
that's
ball.
true.
It can't be round. It could be the
Right.
pizza pan.
Right.
You know?
But
things
it's
won't
a ball.
orbit a
It's
pizza
sphere.
pan.
It's a sphere.
Things
That's
will
what
not
Columbus
orbit.
said it was too.
Yeah, it won't orbit a pizza pan. It just
Right,
won't work.
yeah.
It can't happen.
Well, yeah, and you add another point you were talking about with all these people working on it. So all of them just decided to get into this and never let one.
It's the
one
biggest
thing-
conspiracy in the world's history.
Well,
it was.
and it was one of the reasons that really helped me my faith in Christ and the resurrection. It's one thing for people to die for something that they didn't know was a lie.
Right.
But if you're saying that these men made all this up, the minute they started to crucify me upside down, behead me, I was going, "Hey y'all, we made this up. We made this up."
Yeah, my bad.
And they never ever, none of them ever said, "By the way, we made this up. This really didn't happen," and they were willing to die for it.
And that course, we studied the Apollo, and those were amazing journeys. There's a lot of backstory and stuff. I mean, every one of those were emergency in progress that they all fixed, and did some amazing engineering and physics and made it happen.
It's one thing for people to stick with something we don't have a lot of evidence on,
right.
but when we have as much research and evidence as we have on this topic,
Yeah.
Rick, it's like we talk about, we want people to have critical thinking.
Of
but
course.
there's a point where I see that square piece of wood with a handle and hinges, I have to declare it's a door.
Yeah,
it can't be a vertical coffee table.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It
Well-
just can't be, and the case is closed.
what we're saying
know.
is it's okay to ask a question, but when it's answered, move on.
That's right. That's right.
Ron, we want to have you back again sometime. This is an
Absolutely.
interesting topic, and we certainly we could talk another hour about cool space stuff. But this is a really neat project. I hope you guys get funding for it, and I hope we
so.
we get to go down and see it launch one day. Man, that'd be awesome.
That'd be cool. We're hoping for phase 3, and if we don't, for some reason, get phase 3, we'll be looking for other streams of funding. It's something that, like I said, since Arecibo is gone and stuff, we've done some CNN stuff. We're on about 6 magazines. We've gotten a lot of visibility. Telescope's gotten visibility, so we hope it continues, and we're working hard at it.
Well, thank you for all the work you've already done. General, thank you for taking time to be with us, and thanks to all of you for being with us on this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.